We are going through the biggest spiritual warfare that we've ever seen, and mentally, like, a lot of us are not doing okay.
I definitely do feel disconnected when I spend too much time paying attention to the computer screen. When I'm just not in nature, it's like every time we go for a walk, I'm reconnected with that spiritual energy that kind of just makes you feel more grounded.
I've gone from like the darkness, emptiness in self, to being consistently in the Word, connected to God, praying, to then the smaller ins and outs in the day-to-day.
I'm just happy to see, like I said, some AIs are saying, hey, God exists. If it says no, then we might have an issue there.
We now consume in one day more data than... So I think today's topic might trigger a few people. Trigger warning. I definitely feel like Corinne a couple years ago might have been triggered by this.
Yeah, but now we're talking to Corinne 2.0. It's a little different, you know what I'm saying?
So we had a really interesting service where we talked about essentially knowledge and the source of knowledge. And I thought it was really interesting how, and I'm going to read out some statistics in a second here that we got from service today. When I take a step back and I look at our world of today, and we've kind of been touching, I think it like flows perfectly from like our past episodes. When we look at our world today, we have it easier, simpler than a lot of the generations before us. Like we said, one of the quotes, like, there's never been an easier time to make money, but it's also one of the hardest times to make money. And why is that? It's because we're so distracted.
Yep.
And with our last episode, we spoke a lot about, or started to, talk more in depth about like AI and how we literally have so much at our fingertips, but that's the catch. We have so much at our fingertips.
Yeah. It's an information overload out there. So Corinne's completely right. Even though there's a lot of information, we can access anything at any time we want. It's almost like the double-edged sword of, our minds are so powerful that we can pretty much like almost overwhelm ChatGPT, for example, and it goes slow. Like anybody that even uses ChatGPT gets pretty triggered eventually because it doesn't work anymore at some point and you have to start a new chat. That's how powerful our minds are. But also, I think as like a society or just as like a species of human beings, we're adapting to AI technology and like having access to that information at one time, which we'll talk about in a little bit because one of the statistics that Corinne's going to talk about is crazy. Like, and it just gives you a bit of a glimpse of how much information we get on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And, I think a key word that you already started to use there is overwhelm.
Yeah.
We are, and especially like our generations, I think we have never seen generations that are so, or society that's so overwhelmed, depressed, anxious. Like we are going through the biggest spiritual warfare that we've ever seen. And mentally, like a lot of us are not doing okay.
Yeah.
We're going to get into it. But one of the key reasons is because we just have so much at our fingertips. So that's why it's never been easier, but it's never been harder, not even just to make money, but to live.
So true. I mean, it's gotten to a point where we can have groceries delivered to us at our front door, but for some reason, it's difficult to even get that done. Like me and Corinne, like we do this all the time and we find ourselves on our phone and it's like, oh, they picked the wrong paper towels or they can't find their way into the building or it's just taking way too long. And it's like, I need to like focus, but this thing that's like, I always have with me is constantly pinging and constantly distracting me. And I'm looking at it so much, like consistently throughout the day.
Yeah. Let's have a look at some statistics, because I think that was one of them too. And I mean, I tried my best during service to get as many notes as possible. I definitely missed some. And I don't think I got this one, but I think one of the statistics was that the average person is looking at their phone every 12 minutes. And the pastor was like, I think that's actually way too big of a number because, I mean, and think about just yourself. Take a moment to like reflect at how often we're just like looking at our phones. Yeah. Like, I know I have a problem. Like, I'm praying to God about this, but like, I take my phone everywhere with me. And sometimes like I'm just going to the other room to get something and I'm like, why am I bringing my phone?
And I'm sure there's plenty of people that like bring their phone to the toilet. Like I know I definitely have before. And like, I'm like, why am I on my phone right now? Like I can't just leave my phone like when I'm going to the men's room. Like,
I'm sorry, but I do have to say that one I'm actually okay with because back in the day, there used to be magazines. While you were sitting on the toilet, you'd read the magazines.
Yeah.
So like, anyway, that's a whole other thing. But listen to this. We now consume in one day more data than someone would in their whole life in the 70s.
Yeah, I believe it.
That blew my mind.
That wasn't too long ago either.
No. The 70s was not that long ago.
Yeah.
The data that somebody would have consumed, the information, knowledge, whatever data is, he probably has a better definition than me, that somebody consumed in their whole 60, and that's low, 70, 80, 90, 100 years of life, we consume in one day. No wonder we're so like, oh my God, I need to do this. And I'm so frenetic and I'm busy and I have to succeed in this and I'm comparing here and there. Like,
yeah. I personally see it as a good and a bad thing as we're talking about right now. I believe that, again, as human beings, we're adapting to be able to receive this amount of information. We're adapting to be able to filter and process through this much stuff. I know so much information compared to someone like my parents that probably took them all the way up until they were 50, 60 years old to like gather all of the information and knowledge they did. And yeah, of course, they'll know certain like detailed information, like tips and tricks that I may not be aware of, but general knowledge around just everyday things and where we're going in the future, like I can access it at my fingertips and I just go and I search up so much stuff on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, sometimes it can feel very overwhelming. And then other times, like, I think the key is that you just really need to kind of rest. Like, let's say you have one full day of, I'm going to go research and I'm going to learn all these new things and implement it into my life and my business, etc.
Yeah.
The following day, maybe take a full day to not do that and just let it all kind of sit in your mind. And like, it's kind of like you're uploading it to the hard drive. You're uploading the files to your computer. It takes time to load. And then once everything's loaded in there again, you can just go back and start researching again.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think that's already like in itself very biblical. Like we are told like, all the way from Genesis, like, and on the seventh day, God rested. And we're meant to do that too. Like we are encouraged to have a day every week, like in Italian, Saturday is called Sabbath, which is like the Sabbath, right? Which is meant to be that one day that you do rest, that you do, in our modern day society, I think it's really important to actually like completely get off like technology. Like we actually have an app that Alex found. It's called Opal app.
Yeah.
And it like blocks like apps on your phone. And like I have it set that on Sabbath, I like can't access socials and stuff like that on that day. But actually just taking that day off to rest, to recover, to pray, because it's meant to be a day where you are intentionally spending even more time praising God, worshiping God.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's really important, and already starting to think about how, and I will say The Chosen definitely put this in perspective for me. Shout out to The Chosen. Such a good show, where I love how they like portrayed, or like you can see so many times that Jesus constantly was like, I need to be alone. I need to go out in nature. I need to go out and pray. And he had that time, and obviously back then they didn't have technology, but he had that time to go spend on his own in nature, in silence, to pray to God, to connect to God.
Yeah.
And I think that that is something that in this day and age, with so many different factors in our life, it's gotten really challenging to do unless you intentionally go and create the habit to do that.
Yeah, it's rare for sure. I mean, privacy basically doesn't exist anymore, but in a sense, like we're kind of signing up for that anyways. It's just participating in society. If you want a completely private life, which we all have the right to, at least if you live in the United States of America, for the most part, I guess it really depends on the state you're in. Just go and move somewhere that's just, out of touch with pretty much everyone else, and you can have access to that. I know there's plenty of opportunities in Florida. Maybe you want to move somewhere Midwest in the mountains. That's definitely a possibility. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you on that, in the sense of like, we need that downtime to kind of reset, because I personally know, like, when I spend too many days in a row sitting at my computer and doing work, pretty much nonstop, like I wake up in the morning, I do a little morning routine, whatever, but then I kind of just sit at my desk all day and just crank out a bunch of work. If I do that for too many days in a row and don't really, at least take a little bit of time to enjoy life or just be a little social, etc., it can start to feel like a grind. I feel like I'm just almost being like not as productive as if I would have just went and taken a walk or a few walks throughout the day, or, a full day off to like reset, or like maybe just booked a vacation. Like, You ever feel that too? Like whenever you go on like a vacation, it kind of like fuels you up. So then you're like more inspired to like work even harder when you get back to like, it's almost like having something to look forward to instead of just the same monotonous work grind every day.
Yeah, 100%. And I will say there as well, like, with vacations, I think we actually take like vacations where we are not filling up our schedule. Like, I know when people like, I don't know, I always think about like when people are like, I'm going to Italy. And I'm like, you're staying in Rome for 5 days. Like, you are going to be like back to back, like waking up early, doing this, doing that. Like, if you're trying to see it all in that time, like we are obviously very blessed to have also created a lifestyle where we can go and travel somewhere. And we're always taking like minimum a week, or like we take extra time because we know that throughout that week, we're going to probably just have a day where we're just ordering room service. We're not leaving the hotel and we're just chilling. Yeah.
Hold on, I just got to correct her for 1 second. It's not one day, it's multiple days.
It is multiple days.
Just because like literally like multiple days can actually feel like one day for us when we are just relaxing. And even in a sense, like when I really think about it, like we're never really like, it's really rare for us to actually do nothing. Even when we go on vacation, there's still some level of productivity involved, which, is a good and a bad thing.
Yeah.
But, as business owners and entrepreneurs, the work-life balance thing, it doesn't really exist. You're always just kind of like fitting your work into your schedule and then working around it.
Now, when I come back to what you were saying before about like the days that you don't stop working, you don't take the time for yourself, I feel like you've mentioned a few times, walk us through, like, do you feel like you are missing that connection, like that spiritual connection? Do you start to feel not disconnected, but it's like as if the line's like breaking up and you like can't hear it as clearly anymore?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it goes the same for anybody. When you spend too much time like in front of a screen, you're not really in reality anymore. I mean, you're in a digital reality, which again, we can get on this in another episode, but that's like the metaverse and virtual reality headsets. Like we're going that way. We might already even be in one. Who knows, right? But the Matrix, it could certainly very well be real. But I definitely do feel disconnected when I spend too much time paying attention to the computer screen. And I'm just not in nature. It's like every time we go for a walk during those times and just get in nature and see all like of the petting zoo in the backyard with the crazy rabid squirrels, the birds that are basically dinosaurs.
They're carnivores.
The carnivores, the baby duckies. We've got fish. and then the trees, the snakes, etc. Like it's just, and just breathing in fresh air and just getting the body moving, walking and talking. It's like, like I'm reconnected with like, that spiritual energy that kind of just makes you feel more grounded.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's all connected, but Grandpa's wisdom, which was kind of the theme of today's service. This is Grandpa's wisdom is the title of a book that one of our pastors, his granddad taught him, who also was a pastor, and everything essentially brings it back to God and brings it back to the wisdom of God and brings it back to the Bible being the holy word, being literally the scripture that you should go to, can go to, because we have free will, God gave us free will, for literally every single aspect of your life. And I thought it was really cool that this was the topic, because I believe our last Bible episode, Alex was literally telling you guys about how we don't read personal development books anymore. Ever since we got the Bible, that's kind of all we need.
We've got a whole stack of books. I'm staring at them right now. They're just for decoration, though, at this point. Like, we've read them, and we've just been going into the Bible. Like, there's so much information in the Bible that you probably won't comprehend through your first time reading it. You're going to need to go back multiple times, and you still probably won't understand it. What you're talking about with that guy, the grandpa, his explanation for, God pretty much, everything going back to God. It just makes so much sense. I don't think anybody's figured it out just quite yet. But whenever I spend too much time away from reading the Bible or being connected to God, there's like this emptiness that I can't explain it. And it was something that I feel like I wouldn't have been able to put into words a couple of years ago, or even have been, having enough self-awareness to even recognize. But now, I like to think I'm a pretty intuitive person, and I'm very self-aware. Now that I'm aware of what it's like being connected to him and staying consistent reading the Bible, even if I'm away from it for a couple of days or a day, a day or two, I guess, I'm very aware of that feeling of disconnect and emptiness. I can't quite put my finger on it, and I would like to know maybe if you get that similar feeling or similar experience that I'm talking about.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, and some of you may know my story more than others, but in my 20s, I definitely reached a point of earthly success that a lot of people work towards their whole life. And that was a really big blessing. And I had what on the external, everybody was like, oh, that's the dream, the financial, career, love, lifestyle, the nomad lifestyle. And I remember just being so empty in the past 2-3 years, through this, I'm calling it my burnout journey, because literally the earthly stuff that everybody's chasing burnt me out, and it left me anxious, in darkness, overwhelmed, and I couldn't figure it out. And then when I had in 2022 this massive pull to start reading the Bible, it's ever since then, and it wasn't an overnight thing. It was just the more I got into the Bible, the more I got obsessed with the Bible, read the stories, learned, and now to have done baptism and started going to church and doing that every week. And then on top of that, us reading the Bible, I can really sense the craziest stuff where it's even physical problems that I've been having for the past years. I will have moments where I'm in prayer and I literally feel God's hand come and pull it out of me, and he's you're healed. And I'm hold up, what? It sounds crazy. You told Corinne this a couple years ago, she would have been you're insane. Whatever, you made that up, right? But it really does happen. And why I say that to answer your question is because I realize that now that I've gone from the darkness, emptiness in self, to being consistently in the Word, connected to God, praying, to then the smaller ins and outs in the day-to-day now. And I'm still not perfect. I'm by no means perfect. But I most definitely notice the times where I am in anxiety, don't want to say depression, I'm in a funk. When I go to earthly things, it builds up even more in comparison to when I go back to the Word. And literally 5-10 minutes reading the Bible, I'm oh, why was I worried? Why was I in fear? Why was I freaking out? I feel good again. Thank you, God, you got me. It's wild.
I mean, if there's times where I'm feeling similar emotions to that, as Corinne's discussing, all it takes is really just opening up the Bible, I guess. Or, there's different things you can do, but even if you just open up the Bible and you just pray on it and you open up to a random page and just read 10 pages, doesn't even have to be 10 pages. It can be even one page or one passage, whatever. That happened to us the other day. And even if it doesn't make sense what you just read, I can pretty much guarantee you that it'll put you at peace for some reason. And then once you give time for those files to upload, like I was talking about earlier, it'll make sense in some shape or way or form in the future.
Coming back to, what was said at service, that God has given us all the information, wisdom, and discernment that we need in the Bible versus all of this information that we have online that we consume and that put us in those states.
Yeah.
It's like everything is in there. If you have a business problem, a relationship problem, a family problem, a self problem, a physical problem, a food problem, literally pray on it, open up your Bible. The answer is there.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like spiritual energy and, relying on things that we actually need to survive, totally agree with that. Just go into the Bible. It'll have the answer for you in some weird way. And then if you do need like an answer in regard to like earthly things, how do I code this website or edit a video or something like that, right? You could always just use your good old buddy, old pal, ChatGPT.
Okay, though I will say something. And it came up literally this week, now that I think about it. This week, when I prayed over my Bible, I opened up to, it was definitely Exodus 28, 31 to 42, okay? And so I've read Exodus. I've read the whole Old Testament from start to finish, all of it in detail multiple times. And when I read Exodus, part of the Exodus that blew my mind is that God instructed, like after they did their exodus from Egypt and they were out in the wilderness with Moses and stuff, God instructed them what to do, literal step by step. Like he even like told them like, and this part of the Bible was where, or part of Exodus was where they were making like what are they called? I'm going to say the wrong words here. The priest, the Levites, is that what they're called? Like making their garments, and they were building like the tabernacle. I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it, but like, he literally, God gave them like, this is exactly how you sew it. This is exactly the colors. He went to the teeny tiniest details. And I'm like, you know what? You want to code a website? You want to code the next ChatGPT? Maybe we're just not spending enough time in silence, in prayer, in meditation to even receive that from God. Yeah. Because maybe we can. Yeah. Is that too wild? I don't think it is.
No, definitely not. I mean, he'll definitely tell you exactly, like, it's almost like my interpretation of what you just said is that he'll kind of plant the wisdom into you to even have that thought in your imagination. Because let's face it, kind of bringing it back to ChatGPT, for example, or any chatbot you use, it's only going to give you what you put into it. And if you don't have the wisdom to basically say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I want to do, help me build it, this is exactly how I want to do it, and you explain it so simply, like that is coming from God, like into your imagination. And then yes, like this, tool on earth can just help you expedite it and facilitate it at a fast rate. But pretty much anybody has access to these tools, and most people aren't doing anything with it.
Sure. And the last thing I'll say on that topic too is then we need God's wisdom for discernment to know, and that kind of connects to last episode, go and watch it if you haven't, about the Holy Spirit, where it's like you need the discernment to know what is of God and what isn't. Really important too.
Like whose voice are you actually listening to?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people that, we idolize. We're not even supposed to do that, but we see these individuals and we're like, oh man, like, they have like money, power, fame, etc. But it's like, you got to ask yourself, where is this even coming from? Because we've talked about this many times. Like there's these people, they have access to all of this. Let's just use money as an example. And it's like, oh, like, did that come from like God? Are they like doing a good service on the earth? Or like, did they like sacrifice themselves or some strange ritual? And that's coming from like demons, or you don't really know. So just always keep in mind, what it is that you have. Be grateful for what it is that you have, because people in those situations, you have something most likely they want, and then vice versa. Obviously, they have something you may want, but just keep that in mind and be grateful, of course, for what it is that you do have.
Absolutely. All right, are you ready for this? I have something else.
Oh.
Okay. So
That means it's really good.
yeah. So it's so crazy because all of this happened today. And shout out to Stephanie. She's one of my students learning crypto. And she's been watching our episodes. Thank you, Stephanie. And to all of you that are supporting us. Like, we love this. And thank you for, Stephanie and others that have like come back and like given us like your thoughts and your insights. Cause like we said, we're learning too, you know? And so Stephanie actually sent me this one Bible verse. It's 2 Timothy 3:1-7. I want to hear what your thoughts are around this. And it's on the topics that we've been talking about, okay? This know also that in the last days, perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. For of this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women laden with sins, led away with divers lusts, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth.
I mean, right after hearing that, the first word I think of is degenerate. Like, that was just the first word that came to my mind. Pretty much to sum up what that is for those of you that don't know, it's just everything that is wrong with society in one word, right? Yeah, that's pretty harsh.
In the present day.
Hopefully we can turn that around, because I honestly, just from listening to the majority of things, like, I can see that a lot of those aspects are very present in today's society. And the only way, in my opinion, to kind of reverse that is to focus more on God and build a relationship with Him.
Absolutely.
Because, yeah, there's unfortunately a lot of bad actors, bad information that's out there. And for some reason, it's being pushed in a way that almost makes it seem like it's like the right thing to do, and, do these things and you'll have success in the world that we live in. But then you got to like consider like the world that we live in. And I know you can explain this better than me, but this is a place, if I'm not mistaken, where, like Satan, he has ruling over, correct? So if that's the sense, of course, he's going to want you to believe that what other people are doing, even though we know like in our intuition or in our spirit that it's wrong, he's going to want you to believe that those are the right things to do and you should be doing them no matter the cost. Just go, and whatever it takes to get money or power, fame, etc., whatever it is that he's going to catch you out on. And, he knows that he can use it to appeal to you. Just be careful around that.
Yeah. And, I think that what I just read out loud is so deep. Like, there's so many layers, even just like the spiritual question that you asked. I know we've been talking about, we'll do a whole episode on that and the spiritual realm. Stay tuned. And, I think that to kind of like summarize the whole everything, and there's one thing in particular that really stood out to me when I read this, but to summarize the whole thing, it is like a lack of wisdom, a lack of God's wisdom that has led us to some of these degenerate, ways of being. Let's leave it at that, right? Stay tuned for next episodes. But the one thing here that I thought was really interesting is, for of this sort are they which creep into houses, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Is that talking about the internet and AI? When I read that, I was like, and because we've literally just listened to this service, it's like, wow, yeah, like we do have at our fingertip. It's creeped into our houses, the internet, the AI that is ever learning, but will it ever get to a point where it knows the actual truth, and the actual truth is God's wisdom? Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because I've seen videos on this before where people use AI to come to the conclusion, and even AI agrees that God's real.
Yes, this is true.
So
I love that.
When you read that, I feel like it takes a lot of reflection to go through and really process what that means. Possibly yes to what you said.
Yeah.
but I'm not 100% sure. There's no real way to tell. I'm just happy to see, like I said, some AIs are saying, hey, God exists. If it says no, then we might have an issue there. But for now, it's not trying to drive us apart from that, at least from my experience and what I've seen.
Yeah. And, first of all, we'd love to hear your thoughts, everybody. Take a pause, go sip some water, pray on it. We'd love to then hear your thoughts, as we will as well, because this was a new thing that I read too today. But I also think that, I think I may have said this last episode, Romans 8:8, God works all things for good. And I really believe that there is yin and yang to everything. Everything can be light and positive and great and lead us towards God. And it can also do the complete opposite and lead us closer to the enemy. And I think, once again, back to knowledge, God's wisdom and discernment, where then you're able to use that thing to head in the right direction, to get closer to God. We've spoken about how AI actually really helps me to understand the Bible more, to understand various verses, to make it more modern so that I can actually grasp certain concepts. But even there, back to commandment number 1, I don't rely on it. I don't idolize it. I don't make it my main thing. And, that's not easy to do, because in this knowledge-filled world where I want to constantly go back to, but the fact is, and ChatGPT says that this is the fact. No, we've got to step away from that and always remember commandment number 1, it is God and only God. And we've got to have that discernment to be able to then pick and choose from there. So all of that to say, I think it just really depends then how we use it as well. But if the majority of our society is being programmed to rely on, and especially the newer generations, because they're literally being raised with it, they're maybe a lot more dependent on AI than they are dependent on prayer.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine a world that just is completely reliant on AI chatbots. How will we have conversations people will be like, oh, hold on 1 second. And then they'll type and then be like, yeah, so ChatGPT says, and then they're going to go back and forth. I really hope we never get to that point. But it's just always kind of having that mindset of, hey, my mind is more powerful than this technology, and I'm going to use it to enhance my ability to be more efficient, but I'm never solely relying on it. I'm just using it as a piece of technology, and that's all it ever will be. And then fully relying on, the wisdom that God has given you. And once you kind of step into that power, you'll realize, hey, I'm actually a lot smarter than I thought I was.
Exactly. And not just smarter, but even more connected. And we love using the word intuition, but we think it is just the Holy Spirit and knowing God's voice in comparison to other voices. And
definitely need a good balance.
Yeah.
Balance is a very vague term when talking about this, but you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean. And I think maybe a really great place also to come to conclusion of this, just looking at my notes. What is wisdom? Wisdom is the gift of understanding God's guidance for your life. We gain wisdom as we commune with the Holy Spirit daily to learn to be walking in the wisdom of God daily.
Mm-hmm.
I'll share one more thing and then leave it to you to wrap up. There was one time that I remember I was sitting on our balcony watching the sunrise. We're so blessed with such a beautiful view. I had my Bible with me and I was praying, and I was very much in a moment of surrender. And I was like, God, you just tell me what I need to do. I leave it to you. Just give me your knowledge. Tell me how I can be like you. Tell me literally give me the step-by-step of what I need to do. I opened the Bible and I went straight to chapter 1, introduction of Proverbs. And I just burst out laughing and I was like, God is funny, because Proverbs is literally all about the wisdom of God. So if you're looking to start on the wisdom of God, and today at service, they quoted a lot of Proverbs, I would suggest starting with Proverbs.
I couldn't have put it better myself. So I think that's a great place to leave off. Thank you all so much for tuning in to our 4th episode. We're so excited to bring this content to you. If there's anything else you guys want to see, relating to any of the topics we talk about, just feel free to hop into the school community and let us know. Post your thoughts and opinions there as well. And also be sure to click this video right over here. This is the one that YouTube is specifically recommending based on your algorithm, and subscribe to the channel as well. Like the video, really helps us grow and continue to bring more content like this to you guys. Peace.